The year was 1969, and the Montgomery Civic Center buzzed with excitement as thousands gathered to witness the king of rock and roll in person. The lights dimmed, the band struck a chord, and the crowd erupted into deafening cheers. Elvis Presley appeared under a golden spotlight, dressed in his dazzling white jumpsuit adorned with rhinestones that shimmered with every move. His charisma filled the room as he began singing "Suspicious Minds," his voice smooth and powerful, captivating everyone in an instant. Cameras flashed, women screamed his name, and fans danced in pure joy. It was a night meant for music, magic, and memories. But in the midst of the excitement, something shattered the harmony. A sharp, hateful voice rose from the crowd, shouting a racist slur. The sound cut through the music like a blade, freezing the moment. The band faltered for a second, unsure of what had just happened. The audience fell into stunned silence, and even the air seemed to stop moving. Elvis's eyes, once full of warmth, turned cold and focused. He slowly stopped singing, lowering his microphone, his expression unreadable yet tense. The tension spread through the hall as everyone waited for his reaction. The king of rock and roll stood still under the bright stage lights, the echo of that cruel word hanging heavy in the room. Whispers rippled through the audience, people exchanging anxious looks. No one dared to move. It was a moment of shock, disbelief, and quiet anger. In that silence, Elvis's calm composure spoke volumes. The man who had united millions through music was now facing the darkest side of humanity, and everyone knew something unforgettable was about to happen. The music faded into an uneasy silence as Elvis stood motionless at center stage. The band members exchanged uncertain glances, their instruments still in hand, waiting for his cue. The crowd, moments ago alive with cheers, now sat frozen. You could hear the faint hum of the amplifiers and the soft rustle of people shifting nervously in their seats. The weight of what had just been said lingered painfully in the air. Every eye was on Elvis. His face, usually glowing with energy and charm, now carried a look of deep disappointment. He scanned the audience slowly, his blue eyes calm but burning with quiet intensity. No one dared to speak. The man who had shouted the slur was somewhere in the crowd, suddenly invisible, shrinking under the pressure of thousands of disapproving stares. Elvis adjusted his mic stand slightly, his movements deliberate and controlled. He didn't raise his voice or make a scene. Instead, he let the silence do the talking. The audience could feel his disappointment more than anger, and that made the moment even more powerful. A few fans started clapping softly, as if to show their support, but the rest remained quiet, unsure of what would come next. The king took a slow, steady breath, his jaw tightening as he gathered his thoughts. He looked out over the sea of faces, people who adored him, people who had come for music, not hate. The room felt sacred now, every second stretched, every sound amplified. It wasn't just a concert anymore, it was a moment of truth. Everyone waited, knowing Elvis was about to speak, and that whatever he said next would echo far beyond that Montgomery stage. Elvis finally lifted the microphone, his hand steady but his eyes sharp with conviction. The crowd remained utterly silent, every breath held in anticipation. His voice broke the tension, not loud or angry, but calm and firm. "We don't do that here," he said, the southern drawl in his tone giving the words both warmth and weight. "Not in my show." His words echoed through the hall, resonating far beyond the stage lights. The crowd erupted into gasps, then applause. For a brief moment, the man known for his charm and humor became something else entirely, a symbol of courage in the face of hate. He looked out across the audience, his gaze softening but still filled with quiet fire. "Music's supposed to bring people together," he continued, his voice steady, "not tear them apart." Those words hit hard, carrying more emotion than any lyric could. The band members stood behind him, their heads nodding in agreement, pride visible in their faces. A few people in the audience had tears in their eyes, moved by the sincerity in his tone. Elvis didn't lecture or scold, he simply spoke from the heart. He was known as an entertainer, but in that moment, he became a peacemaker, using his platform to remind everyone what truly mattered: respect, unity, and love. The room filled with applause that grew louder and louder until it drowned out every trace of hate that had sparked the moment. Elvis smiled faintly, tilting his head in gratitude, and nodded to his band. "Let's play something for love," he said softly, preparing to turn a moment of ugliness into one of unforgettable grace. The crowd exploded into applause, their cheers echoing through the entire auditorium. Some people stood up, clapping with tears in their eyes, while others shouted words of support and admiration. The man who had thrown the slur moments earlier was nowhere to be seen, either ashamed or already escorted out. The tension that had gripped the room melted into a wave of unity and emotion. Elvis nodded humbly, his expression calm but his eyes shimmering with feeling. The band members, visibly moved, exchanged looks of pride and respect. Without needing to say another word, Elvis gave his signature side glance to his drummer and whispered, "Let's play something for love." The lights dimmed slightly, and the first soft notes of "If I Can Dream" filled the air. The audience instantly recognized the song, their cheers fading into reverent silence. Elvis closed his eyes and began to sing, his voice trembling with raw passion. Every lyric carried new meaning that night, each word a plea for peace, understanding, and hope. His voice rose and fell with emotion, echoing through every corner of the hall. It wasn't just a performance anymore, it was a statement, a prayer set to music. The audience swayed gently, some holding hands, others simply watching in awe. Even the band members seemed entranced, following his lead as if they were part of something larger than themselves. The room felt transformed. What began as a concert had become a powerful moment of healing and solidarity. When Elvis hit the final high note, the crowd erupted again, louder and prouder than before, united by the very message he had sung into their hearts. As the final note of "If I Can Dream" faded into the air, the entire auditorium stood in thunderous applause. People cheered, cried, and called out Elvis's name, their voices blending into a powerful roar of love and respect. Some waved their hands high, others simply stood still, unable to speak, overwhelmed by what they had just witnessed. Elvis took a slow bow, his face glowing with emotion. He wasn't smiling out of pride, but out of gratitude, for the unity he had seen in that crowd, for the power of music to silence hate. The band members stepped forward beside him, visibly moved, knowing they had just shared a historic moment. Reporters in the audience scribbled furiously, capturing every detail for the morning papers. Flashbulbs popped like fireworks, freezing the moment forever. Within hours, the headlines would tell the story: Elvis Presley stops concert to condemn racism in Montgomery. But for those who were there, no words could truly capture what it felt like, the way one man's courage turned an ugly moment into something unforgettable. As Elvis walked off stage, the crowd kept cheering, their voices echoing long after he disappeared backstage. Behind the curtain, he paused, took a deep breath, and whispered to himself, "That's what music's for." It was a simple statement, but it carried the heart of everything he believed in. That night, he wasn't just the king of rock and roll, he was a man who reminded the world that kindness and courage can change history. The Montgomery concert of 1969 became more than just another show, it became a legacy of love that would live on through every song he ever sang.